In 1948, a man from Michigan built a car 15 years ahead of anything in Detroit. It had a third headlight that turned with the road, a windshield designed to save your life, an engine in the back, and a body the whole country lined up to see. Then, in just over a year, it was gone. Only 51 were ever built. The government put him on trial. The newspapers called him a fraud, and the three biggest car companies in America. They didn't have to say a word. This is the story of the Tucker 48, the car that was found innocent long after it was already finished. And the question that still hangs over it, did this car fail, or was it never allowed to succeed? To understand how one man rattled an entire industry, you have to understand the moment. The war was over. America wanted new cars, and Detroit didn't have any. The Big Three hadn't designed a genuinely new model since 1941. Their factories had spent 4 years building war machines, not sedans. For a brief window, the giants were slow, and the door was open. Preston Tucker walked through it. He wasn't a banker or an heir. He was a salesman and a tinkerer who had built race cars and a wartime gun turret. And he didn't want to build a car. He wanted to build the car of the future, all at once. Rear engine, fuel injection, disc brakes, a body that wrapped safety around the driver. He took out full-page ads describing it before a single one existed. That ad would build an empire. It would also, one day, be used against him in a federal courtroom. On June 19, 1947, more than 3,000 people crowded into a factory in Chicago to see it. Not just any factory, the largest building in the world under one roof, the old Dodge plant that had built aircraft engines during the war. Tucker had leased all of it. What the crowd didn't know was that the car they were about to cheer barely worked. The night before, 2 suspension arms had snapped under its own weight. The experimental engine was so loud, Tucker ordered the band to play louder to cover it. It needed outside power just to start, so his team kept it running the entire event. Terrified, the public would see how much effort it took. As it rolled onto the stage, the coolant boiled over and steam drifted out of the back. Nobody noticed. They saw the future. They cheered. And the prototype earned a nickname that would follow it forever: the Tin Goose. The heart of Tucker's promise was a radical engine, a 589 cubic inch flat 6 with no camshaft, its valves opened by timed oil pressure, driving each rear wheel through its own torque converter. On paper, nearly 200 horsepower at a whisper-quiet idle. In reality, it was a disaster. It made about 88 horsepower, needed up to 60 volts to crank, and wouldn't run properly at low speed. Tucker burned almost a year on it. So he did something drastic. He bought an aircraft engine company for $1.8 million, took a helicopter engine, and had his team convert it from air to water cooling. It worked. 166 horsepower. The Tucker finally had a heart. But to get that engine, Tucker had spent a fortune and cancelled aviation contracts that had been most of the company's income. He was building the impossible, and the bills were coming due. He needed money, and the only way to raise it fast would put a target on his back. Forget the hype for a second, because this is the part that mattered. The Tucker 48 was genuinely the safest car in America, and it wasn't close. A steel frame ran around the entire car to absorb a crash. A roll bar was built into the roof. The steering box sat behind the front axle, so it wouldn't be driven into your chest in a collision. The dashboard was padded. The windshield was shatterproof and designed to pop out in an impact instead of slicing you. And there was a crash chamber a padded empty space under the dash where a passenger could brace. On top of that, the famous center Cyclops headlight that turned with your steering to light the corner, so far ahead of the law that 17 states still banned a third headlight, and Tucker had to ship a cover for it. This was a car designed to keep you alive in an era when Detroit was still selling chrome and horsepower. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If the Tucker was this good, why would anyone want it gone? Here is the thing about being 15 years ahead. You embarrass the people who are 15 years behind. To finance production, Tucker sold stock, and in a stroke of either genius or desperation, he sold dealer franchises and an accessories program to raise cash. It worked. It also looked, to the wrong set of eyes, like a man selling a dream he hadn't delivered yet. And Tucker had made powerful enemies. He believed the Big Three saw him as a threat, and that they had a friend in Washington, Michigan Senator Homer Ferguson, a man so close to the industry he was nicknamed the Senator from Detroit. Soon, a federal housing agency moved to terminate Tucker's lease on the factory. The Securities and Exchange Commission opened an investigation, and a columnist began running stories suggesting the whole thing was a scam. Tucker didn't go quiet. He went on the attack, in public, in print, naming names. He was betting everything that the truth would be enough. It wouldn't be. At least, not in time. In 1949, the government brought Preston Tucker and 7 of his associates to trial. The charge, mail fraud and conspiracy, tied to a stock and promotion effort, the indictment valued at $28 million. The core accusation was simple and damning: that he had sold the public a car he never intended or was never able to actually build. But there was a problem with that story. Tucker had built the car. By the time of the trial, the company had produced 51 of them, real, running, driving automobiles. So Tucker's defense did something theatrical and devastating. They brought the cars to the courthouse. Dozens of Tuckers lined up outside as physical proof that the fraud worked, drove, and existed. The prosecution's case began to come apart. On January 22, 1950, the jury returned its verdict. Not guilty. Every count. Every man. Preston Tucker had won. And it didn't matter at all. Because while the trial dragged on, the company died around it. The investigation had frozen Tucker's ability to raise money. The factory lease was gone. The public headlines had done their work long before the jury ever spoke. By the time America heard not guilty, it had already stopped believing. Tucker walked out of that courtroom cleared of every charge and into bankruptcy. In October 1950, the assets were auctioned off. The cars were scattered across the country. He never built another car. Preston Tucker had been right about almost everything and ruined everywhere else first. Now here is the twist the giants never saw coming. Of the 51 Tuckers built, 47 still survive, one of the highest survival rates of any car in history. People hid them, restored them, refused to let them disappear. And the thing that was once called a fraud, today, a single Tucker 48 sells at auction for well over $1 million. Some have crossed 3. Disc brakes, fuel injection, rear engines, pop-out windshields, padded dashboards, seatbelts. Nearly every crazy idea Tucker was mocked for became standard equipment on the cars that buried him. So, did the Tucker fail? On paper, yes. A company that built 51 cars and went bankrupt is a failure by every number that matters. But Preston Tucker was found not guilty. His ideas won. His cars outlived the empires that opposed them. The verdict the courtroom delivered in 1950, history has spent 70 years confirming. Maybe the Tucker didn't lose. Maybe it was just 15 years too early to win.